Rajendran, head of the Department of Nautical Science. Today I am going to discuss about the atmospheric pressure system. What is atmospheric pressure system? You all know what is pressure. It is the age of about 4.3 billion years. The atmosphere started somewhere 2.8 billion years. So we have a atmosphere around the Earth. You all know the atmosphere got 5 layers. We were starting the first layer 0 to 20 km is called troposphere, 20 to 50 km is stratosphere, and 50 to 80 km is mesosphere, and 50 to 80 to 200 km is ionosphere. Ionosphere got again two, magnetosphere and ionosphere. That last layer from 200 to 64,000 km is called exosphere. So these are the pressure. The pressure which is pressing the earth is called pressure system. Now we are going to detail what is low pressure, what is high pressure. Generally, it is called two pressure. One is called barometric pressure, other one is called wind pressure. That is called dynamic pressure. But normally in meteorology, we take only static pressure. How the pressure is changing. Normally the pressure is distributed all over the world in the what is pressure. It is imaginary lines. I will show you some slides after that. This imaginary, this is kind of the same pressure of all the place. It's called isopressure. Generally, the unit of pressure is called hectopascal. About 1 hectopascal is called 1000 times. Generally, we say now, recently we say millibars. 1 bar equal to 1000 millibars. Or you can say 1.0187, like that example you can do it. Generally, the isobars are drawn every 4 millibars away. So 1 hectopascal, as I told you, 1 hectopascal is 1 millibar. 1000 millibar equal to 1 bar means about 750 decimal 1 millibar millimeter of mercury. 1 point equal to 1.02 kg, or we can say it is covering the centimeter 1 centimeter area. 1 bar, the weight of pressure is 1.02, which is occupying about 1 centimeter square area. Or we can say 10.2 tons per meter square area. So much pressure is acting. Because the pressure of the atmosphere is about 5.6 into 10 to the power of 18 kg. Or you can say 5.6 quadrillion tons. So much weight is present there. Now we will see what is the pressure. So our earth is divided into 0 to 90 degree north and 0 to 90 degree south, two hemisphere. The wind travels always from high pressure to low pressure area. Now look at this. 0 to 30 degree generally is the low pressure area. Again, that is called northeast winds. The wind is always travel from high pressure to low pressure area. Again, 30 to 60 and 60 to 90. It is divided into 3. South northeast winds and westerlies and polar easterlies. And in southern hemisphere also same 0 to 30 degrees south, 30 to 60 degree east westerlies, and 60 to 90 is polar easterlies. What you see is the wind travels from high pressure to low pressure area. First of all, we understand what is high pressure and low pressure. High pressure means, I'll just tell you that this is the earth. You can see this is the earth. So the air is pressing the earth. The air is when it is pressing the earth is called high pressure. When it happens, when the cold air is sinking down, so whenever the cold air is available, that is called high pressure. What you are seeing is a low pressure area. As well as well. The low pressure means the air is lifting, and the earth is when it is lifting during the evaporation. When the air is lifted, there is a vacuum created from the upper layer of the clouds and the earth. The vacuum is created. The air which is surrounding will try to fill up the area. That's what's happening in the world. So when there is a vacuum, wherever vacuum is there, the air which is surrounding will try to fill up the area. That is called low pressure area. So we have only mainly low pressure area and high pressure area. Map you can see it. Low pressure area, the air is lifting up. Means the warm air always rise. The vacuum is created. That is called low pressure area. So the air which is surrounding will try to fill up the area. And in which direction? It is anticlockwise direction. At the same time, high pressure, the cold air, which is the blue color, which will always sink down. When it is sinking down, there is no vacuum created. So there is no gap is there. So the air is in clockwise direction. So generally, when you talk about low pressure or high pressure, when it is high pressure, the weather is good. If it is low pressure, the weather is bad. Why? Because the air will go very fast. This is called high pressure system and low pressure system. Look at this. This is the normally general circulation of the air, atmosphere, and the pressure system. The 0 to 30 degree normally we say Anderson, 30 to 60 degree we will say Ferguson, and 60 to 90 degree we say Polarson. This is a general map of the Northern America. You can see North America, which is your Mexico, USA, and your Canada. Look at this. There is always in meteorology, you know, low pressure area means it's always red. Red means danger. That's why it's called warm front. What you can see is a warm front. It's a semicircle. And other one, which is the blue, is called cold air. That is cold front. So what you are seeing there, wherever high means the cold air is existing over there, wherever low means the warm air is existing there. This is the weather facts of Northern America, which is telling the systems of low pressure, high pressure. Look at that, 1010 millibars, 1029 high pressure area, 1010 low pressure area, 1021 high pressure area, 1029 high pressure area. So these are the high pressure, low pressure, depends upon the boss. Now we can come to the nomenclature of the pressure. Normally you can see generally what that people say the meteorology said, the weather forecast says there is a low pressure formed Bay of Bengal about 200 km away from the Chennai city. 200 km away from means there is a low pressure formed. When they say low pressure formed, the low pressure formed means they will say how the wind is picking up that area. Generally from 0 to 11 nautical mile. 1 nautical mile equal to 1.853 meters. Generally we say knots. When you are talking about the always the speed of the wind for nautical, it is say always knots. Whereas in the distance we say nautical miles. So generally from 0 to 12 knots, approximately let's say 22 km. 0 to 20 kilometers speed, we say normal. So when the wind picks up from 13 to almost 12 knots to 16 knots, we say low pressure. So when the wind picks up about 22-24 km per hour, then they say there is a low pressure formed in the Bay of Bengal. When the wind picks up from 17 to 27, they say depression. That particular area. Then how that depression going to become deep depression? When the wind speed goes to 28 to 33, they say deep depression. When the wind speed goes to 34 to 46 knots, they say storms. There is a storm, there is a TRS, there is a cyclone formed in Indian Ocean. So storm is nothing. Cyclonic storms, the names are different. All are called tropical revolving storm. The names are different. In Indian Ocean, it is called cyclone. In Pacific Ocean, it is called typhoon. And Atlantic Ocean, it is called hurricane. So these are the names of the storm. When the wind speed goes to about 34 to 46 knots, they call cyclone form. When the wind speed picks up from 47 to 63 knots, they say severe cyclone. When the wind speed picks up to 64 to 11 knots, means about 230 kilometers per hour, they say hurricane. This is called very severe cyclone or hurricane. Hurricane again they got subsections 1 to 5, which is normally there in the Atlantic. When you go to especially North America, you go to America, USA and all, they say hurricane. Super cyclone, which is about 120 knots per hour, approximately 240 km average per hour. Then super cyclone never hit this century. Now we are in the 21st century. Super cyclone never hit India. The last super cyclone hit India is 1999. That is called Orissa cyclone, which is more than 10,000 people died. A lot of damages happened. So this is the nomenclature of the wind against the speed. Thank you.